Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching accesstv.org.
Welcome to Grassroots Business Channel, where small business links with social media. I'm your host, Paul Wilusz, and today my guest is Griebel, President of the Hartford Metro Alliance. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. Glad to be here, Paul.
Very good. Can you explain to us a little bit about what the Alliance is and maybe your role inside the Alliance?
Sure. The Metro Hartford Alliance was formed about 13 years ago, and it took the 200-year-old Chamber of Commerce, what was then the Metro Hartford Chamber of Commerce, and an economic development organization, the Connecticut Capital Region Development Association, and put those back together again. Because it had been spun out, the Economic Development Agency had been spun out back in the 90s. Put them back together to do a series of things, but principally to leverage all of the private sector dollars that funded both organizations, so that we would have one organization focused on economic development for the entire region, the 30-town regions, the towns that are all part of the Capital Region Council of Governments. So roughly that geography covers from the Massachusetts border up by Enfield and Suffield down to Cromwell, out to Mansfield where the Yukon campus is, and then out to the Farmington River Valley towns. Roughly about 1 million in terms of total population. Approximately about a third of the state live in this area, and have an organization that under the auspices of economic development would be responsible for marketing this region to companies that are already here, as well as those that might come here, to be a more effective advocate on public policy issues that are important to economic development, such as some of the things we've done around Bradley Airport. We were instrumental in getting the brief international service that we had to the Amsterdam. We were instrumental in being an advocate for the creation of the Connecticut Airport Authority that was recently established about a year or so ago, and pulling Bradley out as an independent, away from DOT in terms of the marketing of the airport. So things of that nature on the regional level, and then also with a very clear focus on the city. One of our 5 strategies is that for this region to be successful, Hartford has to be what we call the dynamic urban core of the region. So a lot of activities that we focus on at City Hall, businesses that are here in the city, to be an advocate for them is a critical component of the Alliance.
Now, could you define that a little bit further?
Sure.
For our audience a little bit more?
Define
the for the urban.
To make sure that the city, we always have had the issue of the city being the proverbial hole in the donut. Even many people will say they don't come into Hartford, they don't want to be involved with the city's a drag on the economy, etc. In order for any region to be successful, at least any region with an urban center, that urban center has to be successful. We would just take Detroit as one of the most problematic examples, that you have a very wealthy series of suburbs that surround Detroit, but as a result of what's happened in Detroit and the Michigan economy overall, you've had basically a mass exodus of jobs and to some degree population, and obviously the two are linked. So making sure that the city is got, among other things, is its downtown is vibrant, that it has an arts, cultural, restaurant, entertainment center, which is what tends to make downtowns successful, that there are enough people living downtown so that you really have that kind of feet on the street that will cause retailers to want to come, and therefore be an attraction not just for people living in downtown, but for people who live in the city neighborhoods, as well as for people who live around the region, be an attraction for visitors coming in, so that when conventions will want to come to the convention center. That's a critical component of what we focus on. The other big issue for the city and for the region as a whole is we're an aging population, an aging demographic. All the Northeast is, and our young people, the youth of the region, are all primarily in the city. So a public education system that is effective, that is able to graduate individuals from high school who are literate, who can be ready to move on to post-secondary education, go into military service, go right into employment, is a key area of focus for the long-term health, not just of the city of Hartford, but we would say for the entire region, and for that matter, the entire state.
Now, do you have a particular 5-year plan or something else along that line that you see that the Alliance would be working with?
Well, we have a 4-year, our investors have asked us to put a strategic plan together. We're now on our third 4-year plan.
Okay.
In each one of those plans, I would say that there's been a significant initiative that characterizes the 4 years. But what we're about in many, many ways, Paul, is just the everyday blocking and tackling, weeding the garden, the things that have to be done in order to move a city or a region forward. A couple of examples of things that have been particular highlights and have gotten more visibility as we created the Connecticut Insurance and Financial Services Cluster in 2003.
Okay.
To really be, when John Rowland was governor, his economic strategy for the state had been focused around a series of, that we actually hired, he actually hired Michael Porter from the Harvard Business School to put together a series of strategies around clusters. And so we had about 7 or 8 clusters that were formed back in the late 90s. Insurance was not one of them. We felt it was critical, given not only this city, but the state, that there be a focus on that. We really do believe we still are the insurance capital of the world, but we have to demonstrate that. So the cluster was formed to be an advocate at the Capitol for legislation that would encourage job retention and job growth in the sector, to be an advocate for best practices, looking at what other states do that make themselves attractive to the insurance and banking industry. And then thirdly, have a very strong focus on workforce development. So one of its initiatives, working with Steve Adamowski and then Christina Kijimoto, was the support for High School Inc., which is the school of choice focusing on the industry over on Asylum Street. So that's one example. Most recently, in this current plan, which started with 2012, we created something called the Connecticut Health Council, which was modeled off an initiative that was launched about 15 years ago in Nashville, where it has a whole different set of responsibilities. Essentially, what we've done when we launched it late in 2012 is that we create a big tent in which we bring speakers on topics that we think are of interest to the broad health sector, whether you're in the hospital arena, the health insurance arena, whether you're in the practitioner's arena, so that we begin to showcase the extraordinary set of assets that we have in the health arena, that we have more people advocating and being ambassadors for that health sector, with the goal being that if you want to be in health, in the health sector, you want to be a doctor, a nurse, an insurance executive, a hospital executive, you're a venture capitalist looking at medical device manufacturing opportunities, that you want to be in Connecticut, that the total number of assets that we have here, the medical schools now with Quinnipiac launching its medical school this year. You've got 3 major medical schools in the state, Yale and UConn. You have Jackson Labs coming in. You have UConn with one of the most highly regarded dental schools in the country. We're blessed with 5 major health insurance companies that either are headquartered here or that have major presences here. That showcasing that, we think, is absolutely critical. And we think there's a direct linkage to your topic, that the stronger those entities are, the better it is for the smaller business person, whether that be an entrepreneur, a sole practitioner who is opening anything from a barbershop to someone who does consulting to manufacturing, that whole range of things that might be in there, from that personal services, person who provides personal services to the one who provides expertise in a given area, that the stronger those larger institutions are, the better it is for the smaller business person.
I also understand that Harvard Pilgrim is
Correct.
coming into Hartford, starting in with a small base, and hopefully that it will expand.
Right.
Have you been instrumental in bringing them into
I
the
wouldn't
city?
say we were instrumental in bringing them in. They obviously looked at this as a market. We worked with them closely on a number of things, but I wouldn't want to suggest that we were the critical component. A lot of what we do is when a company is making a decision to stay here, relocate outside of the state, or relocate coming into the state, and particularly into our region, is we want to make sure they have all the relevant facts, that what they have are accurate, what information they have is accurate, that they understand the full aspect of that information. If you can look at labor markets, for example, labor statistics in a very black and white way without understanding some of the underlying circumstances. They're making sure, for example, if somebody's looking to put a call center in, making sure that they know where the particular potential sites are for that call center. So that's where we provide the greatest amount of value to a company making a decision about whether to grow or relocate here.
Okay. What different activities are you currently working on within the greater Hartford region?
Well, there are a number of things depending on what part of our organization you want to talk about. The Insurance and Financial Services Cluster, for example, will have its second annual insurance market forecast on November 2nd. We'll have three of the most insurance commissioners from three of the most important states on that panel. It's a half-day session that'll be over at the convention center, and it's designed. Was launched last year our first effort at it was last year, was really to showcase the insurance capital brand for that. So that's a major area of focus for the folks who work in that arena. Our Connecticut Health Council continues to move forward. Our next event is on October 19th, I believe it is, a Friday, over at the Bushnell with Kevin Coonahan, who's the CEO of Access Health Connecticut, the exchange that's part of the Affordable Care Act initiative here in Connecticut. Our Hartford Young Professionals and Entrepreneurs has a whole series of events going on over the course of the months. There's probably 2 or 3 a week, depending on what your interest level, what a particular individual in our Hype group is interested in. Our next Rising Star Breakfast is on November 8th, which is really very much targeted to your program here, the topics you want to talk about this morning. It'll be sponsored by the Hartford. It's focused on small business. They have launched a national survey of small businesses, and they'll be talking about the results of those surveys, the importance of it. The small business, and under the SBA definition, small business, as you know, it goes up to 500 employees. Their particular focus is on entities with 50 employees or less, and that's an important market for the Hartford as a company in terms of where they're selling some of their insurance, and obviously a very important component of job retention and job growth in the region and in the country as a whole.
Okay. How can a small business benefit from joining the Alliance?
Well, the age-old issue of people writing books about bowling alone and a number of other things that have been written about how people don't join things today. A small business probably has the biggest challenge in using us effectively because their time is less available for attending events. The most important thing we can do for a small business is help them grow their business through business networking. And frequently, if you're a sole proprietor or you have 1 or 2 people in your company, you don't have the time to go out to a lot of the networking events that we have. So one of the things that we've tried to do, particularly in the city, is through our Hartford Chamber of Commerce. The Metro Hartford Alliance, when it was formed, we took the name of the chamber that was then the Metro Hartford Chamber of Commerce and renamed it the Hartford Chamber of Commerce. Every town around here, obviously, as you know, has its own chamber. Has that board now, has been pretty much over the last 6 or 7 years, been dominated by people who own businesses in the city, and talking about things, in many cases, just providing basic information of what's going on in the city around economic development programs that might be available through the city, through organizations like HEDCO in terms of the loans that are there. We also will talk to smaller companies. We do not have a significant loan pool, but we have a modest loan opportunities for smaller businesses in the region, where we've modified that. It had been tied to a state program where basically the amount of the loan had to be dependent upon the number of jobs created. We've eliminated that criteria, now able to work with smaller businesses in a broader way. So there are a number of things that are available there, but the small business person who is, as I say, out by himself or herself will always have a challenge looking at the chamber. Our suggestion is come and talk to us. Come and sit down and see where we can be helpful. People like Rich Brown and Jen Proto in our organization are responsible for interacting with a lot of the small businesses, and we can find ways. We have some evening events that may be more attractive to those smaller businesses, what we call a meet and mingle, where it's much more informal than some of our events like the Rising Star Breakfast. But our suggestion would be to any small business in the city or in the region, talk to us about how we might be able to be helpful to you and where the value of a investment in the Alliance can help your business.
Well, that sounds very good. I know that we're coming down close to our end of this particular program. Again, I would like to thank our guest, Griebel, President of the Metro Hartford Alliance, for being here on Grassroots Business Channel, where small business links with social media. Until we meet again, enjoy your day.